They thought they found their dream home, until the walls started whispering, the doors moved on their own, and a hidden journal revealed the house's horrifying secret. What Emily and James uncovered was never meant to be found, and it almost cost them their lives. Once upon a time, there was a young couple named Emily and James who were looking for a new home. They stumbled upon a seemingly perfect house in the countryside, but as they explored the property, they began to uncover strange and mysterious events. Emily grew up in a world where home was never permanent. As a child, she moved from place to place with her single mother, who worked multiple jobs just to keep the lights on. They never stayed in one apartment for more than a year. Eviction notices, rising rents, and unsafe neighborhoods forced them to keep packing up and starting over. While other kids had childhood bedrooms filled with memories, Emily's were often empty, impersonal, and temporary. She remembered clinging to cardboard boxes, pretending they were castles, just to make each new place feel a little less cold. Her mother's exhausted face at the end of every moving day left an imprint on Emily's soul, a silent promise that one day, things would be different. By the time she was in college, she had developed a quiet obsession with stability. She devoured home decor magazines, sketched dream floor plans during lectures, and saved every spare dollar. While her peers chased city life, luxury rentals, and trendy lofts, Emily was hunting for something much deeper, a foundation, both physical and emotional. A place no one could take from her. A home that didn't feel borrowed. So when she and James stumbled upon that charming countryside house, secluded, picturesque, and just within their modest budget, it felt like fate had finally kept its promise. She didn't just want that house. She needed it. It wasn't about property ownership. It was about healing the ache of a rootless childhood. About proving to herself that she could break the cycle, that she could create a place where stories could begin, not end. She had no idea that the past she was trying to escape would meet her at the doorstep, cloaked in shadows far older than her own. James grew up surrounded by walls that looked perfect on the outside, but inside, they were paper-thin with tension. His family lived in a spacious, two-story suburban house, the kind with a manicured lawn and neatly trimmed hedges. But behind those pristine windows, there was chaos. His parents fought constantly. The silence between them was often worse than the shouting. The house was never a home. It was a battleground. A place filled with cold dinners, slammed doors, and whispered resentment. As a boy, James would escape to the attic, hiding beneath blankets with his headphones on, dreaming of peace. He would watch families on TV laugh around kitchen tables and wonder what it felt like to be safe, not just physically, but emotionally. While his classmates talked about weekend getaways or family game nights, James learned how to read moods, dodge conflict, and disappear when things got loud. When he left for college, he swore he would never return to that house. And he didn't. He met Emily during his final year, drawn to her warmth and quiet strength. Her dream of finding a real home resonated deeply with him, but for different reasons. Emily wanted roots. James wanted peace. They both wanted something they'd never truly had. So when they found the countryside house, tucked away from the world, surrounded by trees and silence, it felt like a chance to rewrite their stories. To build a space filled with laughter instead of shouting. Presence instead of absence. Love instead of fear. For James, the house symbolized freedom. Freedom from the ghosts of a past filled with emotional scars and unmet needs. But he would soon discover that some ghosts don't stay buried, and some houses carry histories that demand to be heard. At first, the oddities seemed harmless, quirks of an old house settling into its bones. The first night, the back door creaked open by itself. James brushed it off as a faulty latch. The next morning, they found the front door locked from the inside, even though neither of them remembered locking it. The key had still been sitting on the hallway table. Then came the sounds. It began subtly, scratching in the walls at night, almost like rodents. But pest traps remained untouched. The scratching evolved into knocks. Sometimes faint. Sometimes insistent. One night, James stood frozen in the hallway, convinced someone had just whispered his name from behind the wall. Emily heard music once, an old, muffled piano tune playing from somewhere deep in the house. They didn't own a piano. By the end of the first week, doors would slam shut violently with no wind, cupboards would burst open in the middle of the night, and the air in the house grew cold, unseasonably so. The furnace was working fine. The thermometer always read warm. But the chill lingered, especially in the hallway leading to the basement. They tried to stay rational. They had spent their savings on this place, and they were not about to let superstition drive them out. Emily lit candles. James checked the wiring. They even had a priest bless the home, just in case. But nothing changed. In fact, things only got worse. Emily woke up with bruises she couldn't explain. James swore he saw someone standing at the edge of their bed one night, a silhouette that vanished when he reached for the lamp. Their dreams turned vivid and disturbing. Visions of fire, screaming, digging in the dirt, and always a door at the bottom of a staircase, locked tight, yet pulsing with something alive behind it. Finally, Emily suggested they dig into the history of the house. What they found chilled them more than any draft. The house had been built in the late 1800s by a man named Elias Thorne, a wealthy but reclusive landowner known for his strange rituals and rumored obsession with the occult. Town records showed several complaints from neighbors: strange lights at night, chanting, disappearances of animals, even a few people. Then, Elias vanished. No record of his death, no body, no heirs. The property changed hands a few times after that. Each new owner stayed only briefly, and each left without a word. But the most damning detail came from a faded newspaper clipping archived in the local library. Family of 5 vanishes from Hillcrest Estate, no evidence found. The article mentioned the very address of their home. No explanation. No follow-up. Just gone. Emily's hands trembled as she read the article aloud to James. "It's the same house," she whispered. "It's always the same house." They returned home that night, shaken but determined to find answers. James began inspecting the basement more closely. The walls were made of stone and dirt, but one section felt different. Hollow. They knocked. A dull echo answered. Behind a cabinet, hidden by old, mildew-stained wallpaper, they discovered a small wooden door. It was sealed shut with rusty iron nails, carved with symbols neither of them recognized. Emily touched the wood, and the air seemed to shift. A low groan echoed from the walls, like something had been disturbed. That night, the whispering grew louder. The previous owners of the house had all disappeared without a trace, and the house had been abandoned for many years. Emily and James were determined to solve the mystery of the house and uncover the truth behind the disappearances. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily and James made the decision to stay, despite the worsening disturbances. Armed with flashlights, a digital recorder, and a growing sense of dread, they began documenting every unexplainable event. Emily kept a notebook, jotting down the exact time doors opened or closed on their own. James installed a motion-triggered camera in the hallway where shadows frequently passed. Night after night, they recorded faint voices, flickering lights, and temperature drops, especially near the basement door. It was the basement that seemed to breathe with unease. They returned there often, searching the walls, tapping the floors. Something about the foundation felt manipulated, as if someone had tried to erase part of the structure from memory. On the 4th night, James noticed a draft coming from behind an old shelf. He pushed it aside, revealing a wooden panel partially buried behind brick and mortar. It took hours to loosen. Behind it, a narrow tunnel revealed itself, cramped and silent, like the throat of something long dormant. They crawled through, breath clouding in the stale air, and emerged into a hidden room carved beneath the house's foundation. The room was small, with stone walls covered in what looked like soot or ash. Faded candle stubs lined a broken table. Chains hung from the ceiling. And in the corner, buried under an old rotting tarp, they found a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and warped with age. Emily opened it with trembling hands. The entries were written by a woman named Clara Thorne, a name that hadn't appeared in any of the town's official records. Page after page, Clara described how her husband, Elias, had grown obsessed with unlocking what he called the door between the worlds. She wrote of strange rituals in the woods, of voices speaking through the floorboards, and of Elias digging for something ancient beneath the house. Then, the tone changed. Clara's writing became erratic. Her words scratched and scattered, as if written in fear. She spoke of Elias becoming unrecognizable, his eyes hollow, his voice not his own. She claimed he had opened the passage, and that something had come through, something old and angry, something hungry for souls. The final entry was chilling. They scream at night. The walls bleed. I can't tell if it's the house or me. He said once the house is full, he can trade. I won't be here when the last door opens. I won't be here to see what comes next. The page ended with a bloodstain. Emily dropped the journal. The walls around them groaned. The temperature plunged. And then, for the first time, they heard something knocking back from the other side of the stone. As Emily flipped further through Clara Thorne's journal, the ink grew darker, heavier, like the weight of what was being confessed had bled into the very pages. The final entries didn't just hint at darkness. They spilled it. Clara wrote of a discovery Elias made while digging the foundation of the house, long before it was ever completed. Beneath the rich countryside soil, he unearthed what he believed were ancient relics. Bones, carvings, symbols not written in any known language. At first, he thought he'd stumbled upon some kind of forgotten culture. But then the nightmares began. Visions of hooded figures chanting in languages the mind couldn't hold. Screams trapped in the dirt. Fire without flame. She described one night when the earth beneath the construction site shook, though there had been no record of an earthquake. Elias returned to the house soaked in sweat, his eyes wide, mumbling, "They're awake now. They were never meant to be disturbed." Clara learned the truth too late. The land the house was built on had once been a sacred burial ground, not a cemetery, but a prison. A place where an ancient tribe sealed away the most malevolent souls, ones too wicked to pass into the afterlife. Rituals were performed for generations to keep them dormant, buried beneath layers of sacred soil, untouched and forgotten. But when Elias broke that soil, the veil was shattered, and those who had been bound below were loosed. From that point on, Clara wrote of strange figures appearing in mirrors, whispers from drains, walls that pulsed like they were breathing. She watched her neighbors vanish one by one. Pets, visitors, even mailmen, there one day, erased the next. Then it happened to her children. They went into the basement. One entry read, barely legible through smudges of frantic handwriting, "I told them not to." The door closed behind them and it didn't open again. I heard them crying for hours. Then I heard them laughing. But it wasn't their laughter. By the end of the journal, Clara no longer called the spirits ghosts. She called them the hallowed, ancient, cruel, and vengeful. They didn't simply haunt. They consumed. Every soul who had lived in the house after Clara suffered the same fate, drawn deeper into madness, lured by whispers, devoured by shadows. Not a single one had been seen again. No bodies. No remains. Only rumors. Silence. And now Emily and James had read the truth. Now they knew. And the hallowed knew they knew. Emily and James didn't wait for another night. As the last words of Clara's journal echoed in their minds, and the temperature in the basement dropped to a breathless cold, they heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps upstairs. Slow. Measured. Not theirs. The house creaked in a way it hadn't before, not like wood expanding or shifting, but like something alive, stretching, breathing. James grabbed Emily's hand, and they ran. Up the stairs. Through the twisting hallway. Past doors that now stood open, revealing rooms they had never seen before. Rooms filled with rotted furniture, cracked toys, and old photographs of families that weren't them. Families who had all looked happy. Before. When they reached the front door, it wouldn't open. The knob turned, but the door held fast like it had fused into the frame. The windows wouldn't break. The air grew thick, as if the walls themselves were closing in to claim them. Then came the voices. A chorus of whispers, rising in pitch. Men, women, children, all speaking at once, all saying the same thing. "You read it. You belong now." James kicked the door. Emily screamed. And just as the floor began to crack beneath them, groaning as if to swallow them whole, the door burst open with a deafening shriek, and the two of them stumbled into the night air. Gasping. Trembling. Alive. They didn't look back. They didn't speak until they reached the main road, their car parked crookedly where they'd left it. James drove in silence. Emily stared out the window with wide, hollow eyes. The journal had been left behind, along with the camera, the evidence, the notes. All of it. Still in that hidden room, waiting for the next curious soul. They never returned. Not to the house. Not to the town. Even years later, they refused to speak of what happened. Friends thought they were just another couple whose big dream went sour. They let them believe it. The house, meanwhile, stood untouched, weathered and rotting, yet somehow intact. Realtors refused to list it. Contractors never lasted more than a day. Teenagers dared each other to break in. Few ever did. The brave ones who entered often came out changed. Quiet. Withdrawn. Some stopped talking altogether. And so, the house remained, a scar in the earth. A cold silhouette against the countryside horizon. Its story never made the news. But the whispers continued. Locals speak of it only in hushed tones. Some call it cursed. Others say it's alive. But one thing is always agreed upon. The house chooses who it keeps. And what it doesn't want, it lets go. For now. Because somewhere beneath its crumbling floors, the hollowed still stir, waiting. Waiting for the next pair of dreamers. Emily and James escaped with their lives, but not without scars, both seen and unseen. The house still stands, silent and cold, a relic of forgotten rituals and restless spirits. And though no one dares to enter now, its dark presence lingers, a warning to those who chase the unknown without understanding what truly lies beneath. Some doors, once opened, should never be unlocked again. Lessons from the story. Not everything that appears perfect is safe. Sometimes the most beautiful places can hide the darkest secrets. Always look beneath the surface. History matters. Understanding the past, especially the parts that are hidden or ignored, can protect you from repeating old tragedies. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, don't brush it off. Emily and James stayed too long ignoring the signs. Curiosity can be dangerous. While seeking truth is noble, diving into mysteries without caution or preparation can awaken things better left undisturbed. Some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. The need for closure shouldn't come at the cost of your safety or your soul.